Welcome to the Sports Story College Football Edition. Today I'm going to talk about my conference predictions, where I think teams will finish this season in their conference. To kick off, we're going to talk about the independents. I see Notre Dame going a 7-5, Connecticut 9-3, Army 4-8, and Massachusetts 3-9. Obviously, Massachusetts may be a little better than was expected. I did not expect them to win their first game. So that's probably going to be messed up there with that particular team, as I thought that they would not have a chance at winning any games this year. I think they won their first opening season game in like 40 years or something like that. So that was a shock. Notre Dame looked good, albeit against a Navy team that I thought was going to be better than they were at least Saturday. So we'll see how that goes. Notre Dame could end up better than 7-5. I just think their schedule is going to make it tough for them. Connecticut, I see being a shocker. They have the right coach, I think, the right attitude going on. I could just see them going 9-3. On to CUSA. Here we have Liberty going to 8-0, 12-0 in the conference, followed by Jacksonville State at 6-2 and 8-4. They looked solid the other day in their win, so I don't see them falling off any further than where I have them. I think that they're right in a good spot. Then we have Louisiana Tech, who I see going 5-3. They also won in a nail biter, albeit over Florida International, who I thought would be towards the bottom of the conference. So either I have Louisiana Tech too high, or I have Florida International too low. But we'll have to wait and see what happens here. I have UTEP at 5-3 and 7-5 overall. Western Kentucky at 5-3, 6-6 overall. Sam Houston 3-5, 4-8 overall. Again, it's another team that's kind of in that transition stage, along with Jacksonville State. Middle Tennessee at 2-6. And 4-8 overall. Florida International and New Mexico State bringing up there at 1-7, 2-10, and 5-8 respectively. Florida International, I don't see doing real well. New Mexico State's another one that I had them beating Massachusetts. Obviously, that 5-8 is going to probably be worse than that. We follow that up with the MAC conference. This is one of the probably more exciting conferences, as you never know what's going to happen in this conference. Picking this conference is probably one of the most difficult, as they seem to week in, week out find ways to beat one another. I have Ohio winning this conference as far as the regular season goes, followed by Buffalo, Bowling Green, Toledo, Kent State, Miami, Ohio, and Northern Illinois, and Western Michigan. As you can see, all of those teams I have like right close to 500 within the conference. It's just going to be one of those things that it's going to be. I think it's, like I said, this is one of the more interesting conferences, just because I think that you never know who's going to win. You never know who's going to be the team that's going to step up and be the top dog. Ohio seems to have been consistent over the last several years, so I'm going with Ohio to win this conference, going 7-1 and 9-3 overall. And then I think from there, I think it's kind of a toss-up. We go to the American Conference. Here I have UTSA, followed by Navy, who did not look good the other day. I may have them too high here. They may not win a game. We'll see. I mean, if the offense gets rolling a little bit, they'll have a chance. But their defense got shredded the other day. They have some teams that they're going to face. They're going to be able to move the ball, and I don't know if they have enough offense to be able to compete in most games now, after watching on Saturday against Notre Dame. So we'll see what happens with that. I have SMU, who is potentially going to the ACC next year. buying their way in to a Power 5 conference. We will see how that goes. Followed by Tulsa. Tulane I have them falling off a little bit, going 4-4 and 7-5 overall. Again, it's some of these games are toss-ups. They could be one of those teams that ends up being as good as they were last year. South Florida 4-4, East Carolina at 3-5, Florida Atlantic at 3-5, Memphis at 3-5, Rice at 3-5, UAB at 3-5, Charlotte at 2-6, North Texas at 2-6, and Temple at 0-8. The only ones I'm confident on are Temple at 0-8, and that's about it. The rest I think could be obviously I think Navy's going to drop off, but the rest of the conference I think could be one of those, a play here, a play there, and some of these teams I have at the bottom could be towards the top, and some of the teams at the top could be at the bottom. We have the Mountain West. I see San Diego State winning this conference. They just beat the team I predicted to beat win the MAC conference in Ohio. I see San Diego State going 7-1 in this conference, 10-2 overall. Air Force will be right behind them at 10-2, followed by Boise State, San Jose State, who I thought put up a decent showing against USC. We found just not enough defense there to shut down the high-powered USC offense. Followed by Wyoming, followed by Fresno State, UNLV, Nevada, Colorado State, Utah State, New Mexico, and Hawaii. Hawaii actually impressed me with their game against Vanderbilt. Is that their one game that they show up and play well, or is this team going to be competitive here in the MAC or in the Mountain West? We will see. They could be better than expected. On to the Sun Belt. This is a conference that I think is fun to watch. I know a lot of people may not give them the respect that's due to them. I think that out of the G5, this is the most competitive conference there is. You have Troy, Georgia Southern, Appalachian State, all solid. Marshall, Old Dominion, Coastal Carolina, all solid football teams. Louisiana is another solid football team. I just see that this conference with the top 7 teams, this could be a fun league to watch. Southern Miss could step up there and do something. South Alabama, Texas State, Louisiana Monroe, James Madison, Arkansas State, and Georgia State. The only team that I see out of this conference that really probably is going to struggle, or 2 teams, are Arkansas State and Georgia State. Outside of that, I think anywhere in there, with the exception of Troy, I think you could see some mix and match of where teams could end up. Again, this is similar to what I had said about the MAC. This could be some are higher than I expect, or than I expected. Some are lower than I expected. So we will see what happens with these Sun Belt Conference. The Pac-12 in their final season, probably. And I don't see anybody beating USC or Washington, or at least not being ahead of them at the end of the season when it comes time to be determined who's in the playoff or who's in their conference championship. I think those 2 teams will be the top 2 teams. The other teams I think that have a shot are Oregon, UCLA, and Utah. If Cam Rising's hurt for Utah, I don't see. He is the key. If he goes down, Utah could have a long season. If USC, if Caleb Williams go down, I could see them having a long season. Not that they'll drop off a lot, but you lose. If you were to lose a Heisman winner, it makes it tough. This is going to be the top 5, and then I think the rest are kind of mixed match, with the exception of Stanford, California, and Arizona State, who I think will be the bottom 3 for sure. The rest of the conference, I think, will be battling for the mid conference standings. So you kind of had the top group of 5. You have then the middle of Arizona, Colorado, Washington State, Oregon State. Those 4 there could be battling to be in that middle group. And then you have California, Stanford, Arizona State, who I think all of them will struggle and not do so well. On to the ACC. Here I see Clemson, Florida State, Georgia Tech, and Pittsburgh all being within 1 game of each other. I don't think anybody in the conference is going to beat Clemson. I see them going 11-1. I see Florida State going 7-1 in the conference, 11-1 overall. Georgia Tech 7-1, 10-2. Pittsburgh 7-1, 10-2. And then we kind of get into that group of Miami, Louisville, North Carolina State, Syracuse, Virginia Tech, Wake Forest. All of those teams, I think, could be the middle of the pack and could end up in any spot possible, depending on how things go, depending on how things fall. So I think those teams will be right there in the middle of the pack. Then I have Boston College and Duke bringing up the rear at 0-8, 3-9, and 2-10 overall. Duke is the one. I probably have them way too low, but just looking at their schedule, I just felt that they were going to struggle. And sometimes when you lose a couple games, the snowball effect and things just don't go right. I just kind of see that happening for Duke. The Big 12. Oklahoma, Texas Tech are my top 3 teams. Oklahoma, Texas getting ready to leave the conference, going to the SEC. I could see them competing for the conference championship at the end of the season. Texas Tech is thrown in there as a possibility of being there too. I see 5-10 win teams in this conference, along with a Central Florida with 9 wins. This is going to be a fun conference to watch. Top to bottom, I don't think there's any gimme games. Kansas, who I have going 0-9, could end up being a 500 team. This conference is going to be fun to watch this year with the new additions that they have. I think that this will be a really fun conference to watch, and there's a lot here that, a break here or a break there, you can see things change. Iowa State, with some of the issues they've had with the gambling incidents, I can see them dropping some. So again, this is going to be a fun conference to watch, and it'll be interesting to see where they end up at the end of the season. The Big Ten, I have Nebraska, Ohio State, Penn State, all at the top, 9-0, 9-0, 8-1. People are going to say you're nuts for saying Nebraska's going to go 9-0 and 12-0. I think this is a new sheriff in town. I think that the problem Nebraska has had is they have not been disciplined enough to win big games. They found ways to lose. They would make mistakes, stupid mistakes, silly mistakes. I think Matt Rule has come in. I think they're going to change. I think the climate has changed. Does that mean they're going to go 9-0 and 12-0? Maybe not. Looking at their schedule, I felt that they had a really good shot at it. Some of those games they would lose in the past, I think they're going to win some of those games. And it's going to put them in a spot here to be competing for a chance to be in the conference championship game. I just don't see them dropping off a whole lot here this year and falling on their face. I see them rising to the occasion with Matt Rule as the head coach. Iowa going 6-3. I think their offense is going to be way better. I may have them a little bit lower than where they should be. If this offense starts to click, look out, because this team could be dangerous. They have a defense. If they get an offense, Iowa could be good. And when I say good, really good. I also have Wisconsin and Michigan at 6-3. Going 9-3 also. Again, Michigan, I may have them too low. They probably should be up a little higher. Look, just like I said, just looking at the schedule is just where I see things happening. Illinois, Maryland, 5-4 each. Minnesota at 3-6. Purdue at 2-7. Northwestern, Indiana, Michigan State, and Rutgers, all with one win in the conference, going 1-8 each, all with two or three wins at the end of the season. Northwestern will be the interesting one. We'll see how they respond after losing Fitzgerald. The SEC. So here I see at the top, shocking, Alabama. There's all this talk that they're done, they're out. That's when Saban's dangerous. This team is going to go undefeated. I don't think they're going to be beat. They will beat LSU. They will be in the conference championship. And they will face Georgia, who I think is going to go 7-1 and 11-1 overall. I see LSU going 7-1. South Carolina, I think it's going to be dangerous. Spencer Rattler is a dangerous quarterback, and they started to look good at the end of the season. They started to get some things clicking. Tennessee is another one I think is going to be tough to beat. And then I think we kind of have a group here. Texas A&M should be way better than they are, but the Jimbo Fisher effect I think just is for real, and I just don't think teams win well under him. He should be on the hot seat if he's not. They should be doing way better than they do. I see, Auburn, Kentucky, Missouri, Mississippi State, Arkansas bringing up the rear with Vanderbilt. Again, I have the top half I have being really strong. Kind of the middle here is solid, and then the bottom half just kind of drops off, and that's where I see the SEC. So, where is my top 25 right now? Understand, when I did my rankings, I looked at the season as a whole. I looked at who I thought would win, who I thought would lose. So this is not necessarily where I would put them if I was just to sit here and go, well, the top 25, this is where they're at. This is after I looked at the schedules where I thought they would finish the season. So my top 25, I have Georgia being number 1. Yes, I know I didn't have them undefeated. But until they get beat, they are number 1, which, goes against what I just said. But I just feel that even with a loss, they're still going to be right there. Followed by Alabama, followed by Ohio State, Clemson, Florida State, Penn State, Oklahoma, Texas Tech. That is the shocker. I think Texas Tech has something going. I think that they're going to be a very solid football team in the Big 12. They're going to be dangerous. USC and Washington coming in at 9 and 10. That is probably going to be my Pac-12 championship game. Followed by Nebraska, who is my shocker, my sleeper, my team that's going to come from nowhere. LSU, Texas, San Diego State, after struggling with Ohio, probably should drop here. They might be struggling this year, and we'll see how things go for them. UCLA, Kansas State, Tennessee, Liberty, Pittsburgh, Michigan. A lot of people are going, why do you have Michigan at 20? Well, I figured they're going to lose 3 games this year, so I had to have them at number 20. I'm not putting them ahead of teams that have 1 or 2 losses. I just feel that this is a good spot for Michigan based on where I think their season's going to go. Again, if they beat those teams that I thought they would lose to, I will move them up as the season goes on. Then we have BYU, Texas San Antonio, Troy, Georgia Southern, and Air Force rounding out my top 25. Again, this is all looking at records and how I think the season will end, where I think how many wins they have, how many losses they have. This is my top 25. We'll see how things go. So with that, until next time, when we talk about how the seasons are going after week 1. Until next time, thank you for joining me. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, and I will see you guys later.